Alright, it's business time. Let's talk about selling art. Let's talk about creating an art business. This is Jar Humor speaking. I'm mildly successful at selling art. So I feel I'm mildly competent at talking about this as a subject, and I'm getting better about it. So it's definitely been a focus in my life. The first thing that I knew I needed to create was a brand. Oh, it's 3:33 according to my living room clock. When you create a brand, you need a name, because my artist name, Jar Humor. The Jar part is my name. It's my initials, James A. Robertson. But no one cares about James A. Robertson. When you look up James A. Robertson, you can't find me. Alright, you can't find my art. But you look up Jar Humor, all one word, all capital letters. I prefer the all capital letters. I like that. You find my brand. I chose this brand, this name, let's say, specifically because it's two words that people know how to spell, that are easy to say to someone very quickly, and they kind of stick. Another great example is Macaulay Culkin's Bunny Ears. He's got the Bunny Ears podcast and bunnyears.com. That's fantastic. It's two words that's easy to remember. So I recommend, as an artist, you come up with a brand. You come up with a name. That's what you need to do. And in the past, I had made mistakes of including words like horror and various things like that, because I thought, I'm going to do horror art, or I'm going to make funny monster movies. And I never put anything about comedy or humor into what I was doing, and people are like, "Oh, this is you make horror movies?" And I'm like, "No, well, they're comedy, but they just have monsters and stuff." And it's like, oh no, because I used to call myself Robertson Horror, like back in the MySpace sort of days. That was me, myspace.com/Robertson Horror. Like, that was me. And I realized, people thought I did just straight up horror, when really what I was doing was horror comedy. I'm like, okay, I thought the Robertson part let people know. It's like, no, you can't assume people know that this makes any sense. Now, in the case of, like I mentioned with Macaulay Culkin, Bunny Ears doesn't really mean anything, but at the same time, maybe it does. Honestly, I haven't listened to his podcast in a very long time. Maybe that has some type of meaning to him, but to you, it's just something you can remember. It's just something it's two words that's easy to remember. So my logo, so I got the name, I got the Jar Humor name, I got jarhumor.com, I got Jar Humor on all the social medias, which is good. So anywhere you find me on whatever the latest social media is, and if you notice, when I talk and when I create content, I don't mention social media. And the reason is because of MySpace. When I first started out trying to put my creativeness on the internet, MySpace was huge. And I would get promotional stuff printed up that said myspace.com/Robertson Horror, and I just hand that stuff out like crazy, hand it out at clubs and bars and any type of place. I'd go to, comic book conventions, and all my promotional material had the MySpace on it. And then all of a sudden, MySpace wasn't the thing. And I'm like, oh no. All this promotional material, no one can find me now. And since we live in a world where the battle of the social media platforms, everyone's, this is going to kill this platform and everything. I remember everyone getting all crazy, like, I got to get on Google Plus. That's gonna be the hot new social media. So now I just have a name. You just have a handle. You have a name where people can find you. They could put that into a search engine, or they could search on social media, and that's your handle, that's your name, that's how they find you. My business cards right now just have my logo and @Jar Humor on it. Before they didn't even have the @ but I've let me throw a bone, and because people would be like, all right, they would just I would hand them my business card, they'd like, Jar Humor, and they would flip it over, There would be nothing. There'd be the same thing on the back, and they'd flip it back, and they're like, "That's it." And I'm like, "Yeah, just look me up." They're like, well, "Where?" But I feel like putting the @ symbol, they kind of get it. The first social media in their mind that uses the @ they're like, "Oh, okay," and then they just go to that and they find me there because everyone's different. Everyone has a platform that they gravitate towards. So we live in a weird world where people are scattered all over the internet. They're on their phones. They're not, like it's not like it used to be where everyone was like, "Oh, we're going to sit down and watch the I Love Lucy comes on in a half an hour, Margaret. We're going to and then you just millions upon millions of people are all just focused and honed in on one place. And if you were, and if like I remember, if you look this up, the Flintstones used to advertise cigarettes. I think they were Lucky Strike cigarettes. I can't remember what Fred and Barney used to smoke. Now, the Flintstones was not a children's cartoon. It was the Simpsons of the time. It was basically the Honeymooners, except with cavemen. It aired in the evening, but it was still it was cartoon characters smoking cigarettes. And they knew they had people. They knew the entire family sat down and watched. Let's watch the Flintstones. It's funny. The kids liked it because it was a cartoon. Adults liked it because of the modern day life sort of humor. And you could focus your energy in. And advertisers were salivating, like, yes, put our product in the hands and mouths of these cartoon characters. There was a great deal of power there with that. Now everything's scattered. All right, it's chaos out there. So you want a name, but you don't. I have jarhumor.com. I have that website. I don't know that it does anything for me. Most people connect with me through social media, but the website is a good place to create a hub. You know how they have those little link websites that you can put in your bio, or just oh, here are all my links. That's basically all your website needs to be. You can promote a couple content, you can have a shop, etc., etc. Yes, website's not a bad idea. Most people don't connect through their websites. The big websites, the social media platforms, the video platforms, even the podcasting, audio platforms, they're the place. They're where the people are. Your content goes on those places, which means you have to follow their rules and you have to participate to the way they dictate. That's also very important. We'll get to that. Either we'll get to that in this discussion or we won't, because I don't know if I'm ready to talk about that. But first thing you need is a name as an artist. That's what you need, is a name. I want you to think about it. Sit down. It can be related to your style of art. You can have the word horror or monster or alien. Call yourself Dr. Alien or anything like that. Here's the tough thing. When you come up with these names, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to search on the internet to see if anyone else has come up with this idea. I was recently coming up with an idea for a character that involved the word doctor and something else. It wasn't Dr. Alien. It was. I don't want to talk about it because I'm not ready to film it yet. But I kept looking up the names that I was coming up with for this. And I'll be damned if I wasn't finding people that already had this stupid ass name, including a rapper who's not that famous. Now you're going to want to know what the name is. All right, I'll tell you, because I'm not using this name, because there is a rapper, Dr. Squeeze. So I'm like, oh, I call him Dr. Squeeze or Dr. Squeezy. I think it was Dr. Squeezy, because I'm like, that's funny. But it sounded too much like a Justin Roiland, improv on Rick and Morty, interdimensional cable. Hi, I'm Dr. Squeezy, and I'm like, oh no, I don't like it anyways. But I was looking it up, because that's what you do when you come up with your name. You put it up in the search engine. Start without quotes to get a broad perspective, then put quotes around it. This a tune right into it. Now you may find that someone on some post somewhere on their blog or somewhere has incidentally put those two words together in a sentence. That does not mean they're using it as a brand name. As long as someone's not using it as their name, and you can get all of the, like, you can get that as a .com, you can get all the social media, go for it. No one has a trademark on it. There you go. So that's the thing. But with Dr. Squeezy, I'm like, this guy clearly calls himself Dr. Squeezy. I'm not, even though this was a character, it wasn't a brand name, I'm like, I'll come up with something else. So yeah, do a search for it. The next thing that you need, I spent 10 minutes, talking about the name. The name's important. That's how important a name is. By the way, I've been flirting with this girl at my grocery store job, and I was telling a buddy about, like, the things I was saying, like I was teasing her, and he's like, "Oh, you got that risky riz," and I go, "I have risky riz," and I'm like, he goes, "You know what that means?" I said, "I understand what riz is. It's short for charisma. I get how you young people talk." I said, "But I love risky riz because I love alliteration, and I almost want to go back and call myself Risky Riz, but it sounds like a rap name. I so want to be called Risky Riz from now on, guys." Yo, it's Risky Riz coming at you with this advice on being an artist. So first thing, your name. Yeah, I'm willing to spend 10 minutes just to hammer into you how important a name is. How important an artist's name is. A brand name is important. You are a brand when you are an artist and you are creating your stuff. That's number one. There's other examples. Oh, I can't think of any off the top of my head, which really suck. But there are really great examples out there, especially other fellow cartoonists that have created brands like that, where you look them up by the name of their comic, and you don't care what their name is. You know, I'm wondering if I have any. I don't think I have any books by them. I'm not going to look around. I'm not going to waste your time. So, anyways, the next thing you need is a logo, is a central image. This is less important than the name, because really your own face or your own style becomes the overall thing in which people associate with you. But a visual is very important. A visual style is very important. So for me, it's my eyeball monster. Eyeball Larry is a character in my little cartoons and comic strips. I call him that because it's funny to call him Monster Larry. My little girl character, who actually does have an actual name, but I never say it. But in my head canon, her name is Dee Dee, named after Dexter's sister from Dexter's Lab. Actually, it's not named after her, but it's a complicated story that you don't care about. So I will move on. A logo. You need a logo. My logo came from a T-shirt I designed back back in the olden times. I don't want to put dates because it's like you're listening to this 30 years from now. It's like, oh, this is such an old-timey podcast I've discovered. I was designing a T-shirt called, I can't even remember what it's called. Something, the creeping eye or something like that, or like it wasn't the creeping eye. It was the crawling eye or something like that. But like the movie, like the Mystery Science Theater 3000, like first episode was the crawling eye. I think this was the creeping eye. So I was creating like a T-shirt design for that, and I created this logo, and I love this as just like a symbol for my brand. Plus, it's one eye. People assume that I am in the Illuminati. If you notice, my eyeball character is actually pointing up with one tentacle and pointing down with the opposite tentacle, as above, so below. Because I am an occultist. I'm a hermeticist, and that's a hermetic saying, as above, so below. So that is true. He is pointing up with one tentacle and pointing down with another tentacle. People will say that boy worships Satan. That's what the Baphomet character that the Church of Satan keeps putting up, where he's pointing up and pointing down. And no, it's a hermetic saying, as above, so below. I won't go into it, but pick a logo. Pick a symbol that people recognize you by. Because besides a word, a symbol is also very powerful as far as brand recognition goes. That's going to be a process, but also your own art style. In the same vein as logo, art style is very important. Pardon me, I probably need a beverage. Do I have a beverage poured? Oh, I may have to put you in my pocket. All right, you're going in my pocket. I'm using my Tascam recorder. You're in my pocket. I'm getting into the fridge, pouring me some iced tea. This is ridiculous, that making these noises. So, your cat, I'm on the internet right now. I can't pay attention to you. So, your art style is going to stand out. You're inevitably going to create your own style, which is good. If you're a real artist and not a hack, and I hate using these terms, real artists, and whatever like that, like I'm snooty or anything like that. But I'm a little snooty when it comes to art. There's a lot of people out there who are hacks and they suck, and I see them a lot, especially on the platform that I pimp out my my freelance cartooning services. When I look up cartooning and I look up other people who are cartooning, they really are hacks. Their stuff. Sorry, there's a truck going by. Let me move into another room. I never drank my tea. Give me a second. Let me drink my tea, people. Hold on. Oh my God, it's chaos right now. Cat, what baby? What baby? Say hello to the people. Now you don't want to talk. I come down here and I'm petting you. What baby? This truck's going by. What? What baby? Cat wants attention. I'm thirsty. It's not exactly the exact time in which to podcast to people. Your art style. What was I saying? Okay, so when I'm on this particular site that people offer their artist services, I see a lot of crap that looks exactly the same. I see a lot of generic stuff. And this is why AI art can replace those people. Those people are easily replaceable by a robot because they are robots. They have no creativity. They simply have learned technique. They know how to draw. They know how to draw with a computer. I don't draw with a computer, and I'm not crapping on anyone that draws solely on the computer. Creativity is a huge portion of it, though. I draw by hand. I draw first with pencil, and then I draw pen on a piece of paper. That's why my work looks the way it does. It's pen. It's messy. It's rough. I leave in mistakes. But I have a very distinct style. Thick line art. Like it's the lines are a little thicker than most people's because I use one specific type of pen. I don't have a bunch of pens with a bunch of different nibs and everything like that. I didn't learn that technique. I'm not an illustrator. I'm not creating a comic book. All right, I'm creating cartoons. All right, I'm creating comic strip grade cartoons. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I go for. And that's the technique that I have. This generic crap that I keep seeing all the time, where it looks like it was done by a computer, it's soulless. Everything looks the same. There's no distinction from one person to another. There's no real brand. And here's the thing. A lot of these people, I don't know who they are, but I don't feel like they're actual artists in the sense that they care about the art. I think they've discovered a way to make money. I think they don't want to do grocery shopping for other people or pick up people's food, their fast food and deliver it to their house. They don't want to do that. So they found another app where it's like, oh, if I draw something on the computer, people want that. Good. Those people are going to be replaced by robots anyways. Good. Let AI replace those people. That generic crap. Me? I'm an artist. I've always fought that word. I've always hated that word because it sounds so pretentious, but I realize I actually am. I care. I care about how my stuff looks, that it's fun and interesting and creative. And I hope you have that in you. whatever it is that you do, even if it's like video or music or anything like that, that you're not that you put a certain level of passion into it. I know I do with my work. So your brand, your technique is going to be very important. You're going to have a recognizable sort of look. And that's what I go for. Even in the things that are not cartoon related. A couple years ago, I painted a background for my videos. I did it myself. I had a black background, and I came home one night for my grocery store gig, and I just started Jackson Pollocking that thing with neon paint, because a lot of my artwork contains very bright colors. That's one of the things I'm known for, is using I don't use like pastels and very, that cottage core type of drawing that's popular, where everything's very naturey, and there's different shades of green and everything like that. No, all of my crap is like brightly colored. It looks like something out of a children's book. Like, even the stuff that's not for kids is like brightly colored. My little girl character, Dee Dee, she's got purple hair. Like, it's everything's brightly colored. So bright colors. I just Jackson Pollocked just every type of neon paint that I had all over this backdrop, and it's beautiful. I love it, and people recognize it, and people compliment. They're like, "Hey, I really like your background. I really like." And I said, "Thank you." I painted that myself. It's unique. The same way that my eyeball logo and my name is unique, that background is unique to what I do. So even if you're a content creator in the sense of, how do I put, like doing something like this, like just an audio recording, like a podcast, you need a visual cue for people to say, "Hey, that's so-and-so's." They need to be able to recognize it in a thumbnail. They got to be able to see it in the chaotic mess that is the internet. When they're scrolling, they got to stop and pay attention. Hey, I know that person. I've seen that person. Because old school advertising, when it came to like television advertising and newspaper advertising, there was this rule that you had to see an advertisement at least 7 or 8 times for it to actually stick into your brain, for you to care. You see something once you're unfamiliar with, you're just like, well, I don't know what that is. You see it a second time, you're like, your brain makes a note that that's the second time you've seen it, but it doesn't really care still. By the 3rd or 4th time, it's like, everyone keeps talking about this. Who's Gabbo? Gabbo's coming? What's Gabbo? By the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time, your brain's like, all right, I got to check this out. What is this? What is this? Everybody's talking about it. And that's what you want with your art. You want everyone talking about it. And that's getting yourself out there on platforms. My biggest thing, and I'm going to share with you a little bit of personal stuff that's been going on with me. You may have noticed that this podcast or talk is a little more coherent than the ones in the past. I was suffering from a disease, I guess. Like, I live in a humid climate, and I had a leak underneath my sink, and I got mold underneath my sink, and I was breathing it in every night. And it was making me sick. I started getting a really bad sinus infection. You can hear that I'm nasally. Like, I have to spray the stuff up my nose, and I have to use this thing that pumps water through my nose, and I have to clear my nose out and stuff like that. Like, I'm still recovering from it. But over the past 2 weeks, I've actually just kind of sprung to life, back to life, and go, oh my goodness, what happened? I had mold underneath my sink. I've been killing it, just spraying it with that's the sound effect of me spraying the mold with the, with like bleach stuff and everything else. And I don't want advice, by the way. If you're like, oh, well, let me tell you how to get rid of mold. I didn't ask. I got plenty of people giving me all the advice, including a girl I was flirting with. Not really flirting, because she's way too young for me. She's like in her 20s. I'm in my 40s. I'm like, hey, you sure are pretty. But I told her about my mold. And she's like, oh my god, my boyfriend does mold removal. And I'm like, I don't know, my house phone's ringing. Yeah, I have a house phone. Shut up, I have a landline. Should I answer it? It's probably spam. Hold on. Hello? Okay. It was a collection agency calling for my deceased mother. Good luck getting that money. She won. My mother died owing people money. She won. They won't erect a statue of her. They won't name a wing of a hospital after her. But there are a lot of people who are pissed off that they didn't get their money. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So she gave me advice because her boyfriend does mold removal. She's like, oh my god, my boyfriend does mold removal. I bought a dehumidifier, which I didn't even know was a thing. Like, I knew there were humidifiers, but I didn't know there was ones that took the humidity out of the air. When did they invent this? So I have it. It looks like a cool robot. It looks like HAL from 2001: A Space Odyssey. But it's white, and it's like a little tower. It looks like something of a futuristic thing, and it's like colored lights in it because they try to make it all look... They make it look cool. But I have it up on a dresser in my bedroom. I got like window shaker air conditioners, which suck. My central AC is just like gone. That's part of the mold problem. Like, I don't have central AC anymore. I just have the window shakers, the window air conditioners. So my room now is much better. I'm breathing a lot better. I'm getting much better sleep, and I feel more coherent. I felt like a lunatic. I even stopped drinking because my health was getting weird. And I'm like, why am I so tired all the time? Why do I feel like a lunatic? Why am I incoherent and things like that? And I was talking to someone at work, and I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, hey man, do you have any leaks underneath in your house or something like that? He didn't say underneath my sink. He said, do you have any leaks in your house? And I said, yeah. I said like a year ago there was a leak underneath my sink that I patched up, and sure enough, my patch job had come undone. That Gorilla Tape only lasted a year. It didn't quite do it. I probably shouldn't have mentioned what type of tape, because that could be slander. Maybe I didn't use it properly. Gorilla people, don't come after me. Maybe I didn't use it properly. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing as far as fixing sinks, and I shouldn't be using crap like that. But yeah, I got really sick, and I'm feeling better, guys. And I'm out here on the internets trying to teach you about how to create an artist brand. So what did we cover? Let's pick a name. Simple, short, couple words that people know how to spell. The only bad thing for me is that humor is spelled differently, like in the UK and stuff like that. That's the only trouble I get into. But I'm an American. Shoot, yeah, I was born in Houston, Texas. My folks got married at that Joel Osteen mega church. That's true, by the way. So yeah, that's, humor works for me the way it's spelled. Jar, simple word, jar humor. When I first came up with that name and people were looking it up, mostly my art came up, especially they were separating it into two different words. That, and I remember this t-shirt art that said, save gas, fart in a jar, would come up. That was not created by me. That was the other jar humor on the internet. Was that one design. And I'm sure they sold more t-shirts of that farting in a jar thing than I did of most of my work. Until my stuff started getting popular. Until you may have seen my shark tornado art, completely unrelated to anything that also involves sharks and tornadoes. It's completely different. It's not IP infringing at all. So yeah, you want a name, you want a logo and a style of art that is distinct to you. You want to hone in on what you want to focus in as an artist, whatever that is. You also want to pick subject matters that you really dig. For me, I love monster movies. So when I started focusing on doing things concerning monster movies and aliens and sci-fi and really bad movies and things like that, Ed Wood, Tim Burton's biopic of Ed Wood is my favorite film. If that says anything, like, that's my favorite film. That is about a creative who struggles, and it is hilarious and brilliantly made. and that's like my favorite film of all time. My second is probably like Ghostbusters and RoboCop and all those, like the UHF with Weird Al, another struggling sort of artist to me it's a feel good movie. Whenever I'm down, I put on UHF to make me feel better. Ed Wood doesn't quite cheer me up because I read Nightmare of Ecstasy, the actual book that it's based off of. Tim Burton kind of gave it a happy ending. He's like I'm going to stop here rather than where Ed Wood falls into alcoholism. So you want a name, you want a style and a brand, you want a logo. You want to put yourself out there on the internet at as many places as humanly possible. You want to get promotional material. You want to get little business cards made up. You want to tell everyone what you do. Tell everyone what you do. Constantly talk to people about what you do. Even in the real world, talk to people about what you do. And you want to create consistently. This is why I was telling you the story about the mold and me being sick. If anyone's following me on like social media and that, I kind of disappeared for a little bit. Over this past year, I have been slowly getting sicker and sicker. I thought it was clinical depression. I was worried about it. Like I said, I quit. Like I don't drink that much to begin with. I have a little wine. I'm not a big beer drinker. I don't drink hard liquor, but I like buying wine. I like my Manischewitz and my Taylor Marcella wine, and then I've been drinking this Coastal Living wine that only costs $5.50. I drink the Moscato. So I'm like I got to do something. I started changing my diet. I'm like, why am I getting so sick? Turned out it was this mold. But the reason I tell you that story is because the main thing as an artist that you have to do is you have to show up every day and do the work, like it's a job. It is a job. You got to show up every day. You got to create the content. This is what I'm working on. Stephen Pressfield, in his book The War of Art, which I highly recommend, it's my favorite book. I was going to say it's one of my favorite books, but honestly it's become my favorite book. In that book he talks about turning pro, and you really do. You have to show up every day. You have to do the work. And this is what I'm getting back into doing. In fact, this right now, me talking to you, is me showing up today and doing the work. Because I want to share my thoughts about being an artist with a group of people. And I'm hoping you can learn, especially from like mistakes that I made in the past. One of the biggest mistakes is not showing up every day and doing the work. No matter what it is that you do, show up every day and do it consistently. Because if it's your passion, if it's what you love, that's what you do. Also, get a day job. A lot of people will tell you the exact opposite of this advice, but I have found that working in a grocery store is a great place for ideas. It's a great place to reconnect with people. I used to make novelty t-shirts. I used to work for a novelty t-shirt company. And then I worked briefly for a television commercial company. I was a production assistant, which was the worst job I ever had in my entire life. But I thought these were cool, artsy jobs. Cool, artsy jobs, you're just going to meet the same couple of a-holes that you normally would associate with. You work in some place like a grocery store, you meet everyone. Especially a grocery store. Because every lunatic has to buy groceries. You get everyone from every walk of life. And I get so many stories and so many great ideas from working in a grocery store. And I love it. And I meet so many interesting people, and so many people have helped me. So many young people that work in a grocery store have given me advice, like with the new social media platforms. They're like, you got to make vertical content. I'm like, okay, I hated vertical content. I made an entire video about how I hate vertical content. The next video I made after that was vertical content. Go back and look at my video platforms. You'll see the next video I made was a vertical video. One of the young people suggested to me that I put captions in my video, because a lot of people, when they watch videos, they don't even turn the sound on. I go, really? That's so weird to me. Like, I'm such a dinosaur. I don't care about new technology and everything like that. You have to pay attention to the new technology. You have to ask the young people. If you're a young person, you have an advantage. But one day you will not be a young person. Young person, this is my advice to young people. One day you will not be a young person, and you need to look to the new young people. They're going to dress weird, they're going to talk like they're morons, but they can tell you what's popping. They can tell you what's happening on the streets. And that's what you need to know to keep up with the times. You don't pander to young people. Like, I keep my roots of what I like. But I reach them in a place where they can find me. Vertical video, vertical videos is going to be one of my main focuses. Creating that type of content. That's one of my new focuses. I have a bunch of stuff that I've come up with that I'm going to start putting out. The second is this, for a lack of a better word, a podcast. I like podcasts. It never dawned on me I could pick up a microphone and talk for 30 minutes at people. But there you go. You never know. Take a look at what your skills are. Take a look at what you bring to the table as an artist. And remember something. There is no such thing as talent. Talent is a myth. That's actually the title of a book that I read that's pretty good. I can't remember the name of the author. There is no such thing as talent. Everything is a skill. If you're not good at something, you sit down, you keep working at it. You find teachers. And there's plenty of teachers on the internet that will teach you anything. And you sit and you practice and you do the work. And you show up every day. That's what a professional does. I want to thank you so much for listening. This is Jar Humor. You can find me anywhere on the internet at jarhumor, jarhumor.com. This is Jar Humor. Telling you to go out there, make some art, people. It's Jar Humor signing off.